Alright, welcome YouTube. My name is Spada, otherwise known as Sten Hunter on the ImperialShipyard.net forums. Tonight, we're going to learn a little bit about customizing toys and painting, because people love to paint. Why do people love to paint? Well, it's the easiest way to get into customizing. And let's see. I'm going to go over a couple of general things today. We're going to look at basically the tools you might need as a customizer, types of paint you might use as a customizer, some examples of work, and then we're going to start a project, a mighty, mighty big project. And what that project is it's streaming up there in the top right. Is that the top right or the top left? Top left. We're gonna customize 3 Y-wings from the Star Wars franchise, the original trilogy, not the prequels, not the cartoons, not the I don't even know what comes after the originals. Number 7, 8, and 9. No, we're gonna do the originals. The Y-wing. The reason we're doing the Y-wing is because I happen to have a bunch of them. What we're going to do is we're going to do 3 of them. Like I mentioned before, we're going to try 3 different scales. We do a micro machine, and then we're going to do, there's also a series of die-cast micro machine that was larger than the original tiny micro machines. And then we're going to do a full-size Hasbro Y-wing for, 6.5 or 3 3/4 inch action figures. We'll go through the process, the entire process of how we do this. But we're going to start with the tiny one first and kind of mock out like paint design. And the second one, we're going to see if we can do match the paint design, a little more detail, a little more intricate brushwork. And finally, when we get into the larger scale, we're going to think about how can we change this Y-wing to make it special, unique, and one of a kind, which is kind of the reason you get into customizing. So I've been customizing for approximately 15 years, off and on. It's not a full-time job. It's not a full-time hobby. Sometimes you start, you get totally excited about something, then you stop. And you might not pick it back up for months, days, weeks. My case, 2 years. Things come in. This is what's great about the hobby. You can kind of stop and say, I've had enough for right now, I'm burnt out, or I don't have time, there's family, there's school, there's work, whatever, and then you get right back into it. Then the best thing about customizing is there's no bad customizing. There's only awesome customizing. So many of us, who start customizing realize that these toy companies produce, figures that aren't exactly movie accurate, or they don't have all the articulation that you might like, or there's vehicles that you think people would love to see, or even figures that these companies aren't making that you want to customize and then produce. So I know a lot of people from the Imperial Shipyard forums and rebelscum.com. They look at comic books, Sith Fire 30. Dalton, they look at comic books and they go this is an awesome series, and there's no action figure for this particular character, so I'm just going to make it from scratch. That being the case, I like to specialize. Well, every customizer has their favorites, a little specializing. There's a guy, Humboldt, I think is the name he goes under. He used to be an amazing 3 3/4 inch. Now he's moved into the full 6-inch black series, and he does amazing 6-inch, and he does scratch built, total vehicles, customization, unique things. It's awesome. I like to do vehicles, and I like to do simple repaints, and I like to do things where you kind of touch it up a little bit here and there, add a little custom here, a little decal, a little piece of this or that, and then repaint it and make it look nice. This being a little beginner kind of starting thing, we're going to work with just a repaint to start with and start from there. Excuse me. So that being the case, we're going to go over a couple of things today. We're going to go over tools and process, and then some of the finer details. Then we'll look at some examples of work and what you can do with just paint, and that's all that really matters, just paint. Okay, so what are some of the tools you need? Brushes. I know you're thinking like, oh, brushes. Everyone needs brushes. So what kind of brushes do you need? Well, you can go to any hobby store or any craft store like Michael's or a Specialized Hobby or Amazon, and you can find brushes. I like Michael's because you can go inside there and you can just rummage through it. There's also like Joann Fabrics sometimes carries brushes. Any place that has art supplies is going to carry brushes. And you can have the full spectrum. You can buy, cheap kits that have like a slew of brushes in them, like these, or you can get like individual brushes, that specialize in like fine detail. See, like thin bristled, or even tiny thin bristle. If it'll even come in focus there, and you do a lot of detail work and stuff like that. You can always get the largest, fan brushes and things like that. What's important is not how much the brush costs or the quality in the brush at this point. It's the tool. And behind every tool is the craftsman and what you can do with it. So I like to go with middle of the road kind of brushes for a bunch of stuff. And then if I really want to do super detail, I'll go out and I'll buy an expensive brush, and I'll do a lot of detail there. So brushes, easy to do. Like these, you can see here's all the different kinds of brushes you might have. Liners, script liners, round, detailed, filbert, comb, triangular, dagger stripper, chisel blend, shader, angular, fan, glaze wash. So these are really great glaze wash brushes. But this is just a simple kit from like Michael's. Didn't cost a lot, probably like less than $10, and you get a whole slew of stuff. Great start, and you get going. So, moving on. What kind of paint? Paint. Oh my God. It is like, what kind of car does somebody drive? It's unique, or what's their favorite food or beverage. Paint can be a stickler for anybody, but there are reasons why some people like other paints more than others. I would recommend straight off the bat, if you're doing any kind of customizing, that you use an acrylic-based paint. If you use an enamel-based paint, you will get generally poor results. Now, why is that? So these plastics that these these action figures are made from, these vehicles, don't react well to flammable paints. And an enamel-based paint has a flammable igniter mixture in it, which allows it to be an oil-based paint. And so that flammable piece, I think it's like, we'll see, and we'll get into the details of what actually the ingredient is. I can't recall off the top of my head, but that particular fluid can soften the plastic. It can, that leads to poor coverage and stinkiness, or it can be forever tacky. The paint will just not dry ever, and that's no good. Acrylics, they're water-based, they're safe, they're non-toxic, they're non-flammable. They have different properties. They tend to go on, depending on the manufacturer, they tend to go on either thick or thin or streaky, and some require 2 coats, 3 coats, 1 coat. Sometimes you gotta mix it all up. It's all over the place. I like to use a combination of paints. Here's my current semi-favorite. These are Vallejo paints. Bam, Vallejo model color paints. Let's put them here. What's cool is you can start off with just a few, because everyone knows that if you mix a few primary colors together, you can get any color in the rainbow. You know, red and blue make green, yellow and something, yellow and blue make another color, green. Yeah, I think. So that means the only other colors you have to really work for are black and white. And then you go to the Michaels one time and you go, hey, I'm just gonna pick up another paint, and so you spend $3.29 and you buy another paint, and you've got an awesome paint for the that weekend to work with. The cool thing too about watercolor or water-based paint, it's easy to clean up, doesn't stain, get stuck on you, get in your clothes or on your furniture, and you don't have to use paint thinner to clean your brushes. You just run them under some hot soapy water, and it's all done, just like that. You're all clean. So we have these Vallejo model color. Another paint that I really like, hold on, is, where are you? Actually, let's look at these paints real fast. So this is Floquil, railroad colors. Now, this is an enamel. It is toxic. Vapors are harmful. And you can really tell that it's an enamel-based paint because it's separated here. So this is a yellow, and of course the pigment is settled to the bottom, and the agent that helps mix the paint and suspend the particles has floated to the top. So let's see what this is in here. Blah 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 blah. First aid: swallow, vomit. No, don't want to vomit. Avoid contact with your eyes. Whatever. Petroleum distillates. Yeah, petroleum distillates. So with a chemical like this, you're gonna shake it up. You're gonna get a really nice yellow color. Boom. These are great. These paints are awesome on metals, die casts, things like that. But I would not recommend them on plastics. They will never kind of really dry. They'll always be kind of tacky, and they might make the plastic soft because these toys are made out of several kinds of different plastics, ABSs, PVCs, and so they all react differently. You can have a mix of plastics on one toy, and boom, one second this is soft now, and the paint doesn't stick well to that piece, and blah blah blah. It gets horrible. Anyways, these are nice. I use these on when I'm really working on a metal piece and I know it's metal, and that's it. Other kind of paint. Hold on one second while I get it. Alright, this was my first paint that I ever used. Poly-S. Now, Poly-S is another kind of train hobby paint. This is made by Floquil, the same company that makes the other paint, except this is their acrylic paint. And you can tell, it says right here in awesome lettering, because I know you can all read that. No, you can't. Water-based. See it right there? Water-based. The other part over here is it basically says odorless, easy to use, won't kill you if your child drinks it. And just like the enamel, it separates over time and requires you to shake it up. And when you do shake it up, you get beautiful pigment and beautiful colors. And this acrylic, man, it sticks well to plastics, as well as can be stuck onto plastics. You'll find that no matter what paint you use, a lot of the time your plastics may not adhere well, Sorry, just double checking stuff. So even if they may not adhere well, and they might wear off, especially joints and things like that, but it's cool. All right, so next we're going to talk about. So we did enamels and acrylics, and that's cool, and we talked about brushes. Here's another really useful tool. This is the customizer's jewel, the secret. It's the secret sauce. Fix it. Abe's Fix It. It is a, let's get it turned towards the camera here. It is a 2-part epoxy. It allows you to sculpt. You basically take a pinch of this and a pinch of this, equal parts. You mix together so that the darker color mixes with the lighter color. This is going to be the darker color, this is the white color. Mix it together, you mix it together really fine. Has about a 4-hour working period where you can mold it just like clay, putty. Around the 3-hour mark, it becomes, you know, stiffer and harder to work. But it's all good. After about 4 hours, you'll see that it begins to get really hard, and then that's when you stop working with it. And about 6 hours after that, this thing is hard as stone, and you can sand it, drill it, do whatever you want. What I like to use it for, and you know, like perfect example of this stuff, Sid Fire 30. He does a lot of amazing work with this stuff, and it's awesome. Basically, he sculpts hair, full uniforms, horses, alien creatures, just amazing stuff. And another good use for this, especially like when you're customizing vehicles and stuff like that, to hide those screw holes that, you know, the toy manufacturers have to put in to hold 2 parts of a toy together. You know, you basically go in, you mix up a tiny bit, and you go whoosh, and you fill it just like Bondo or putty on a car. You make it nice and smooth. You add a little bit of water, or you grab some from a sink. Boom, a little water makes it glass smooth, and then you're done. It hardens, and you can paint right over it. This holds any kind of paint, does anything. It's amazing stuff. All right. What's another great tool for the customizer? Resin. A lot of customizers will customize and basically cast and pour their own parts. Excuse me. One of the guys on the forum, I will leave his name out of this, for I don't know if you would like his name mentioned. But if you go there and you look on the forums in the shipyards, you'll see that he likes to do a lot of casting. He's got an eBay store, and kind enough to get these kind of little trinkets from him at one point. And these are basically cast from original Star Wars parts. So this is like an Imperial officer's breastplate uniform. I believe this is probably General Veer's when he's on the AT-AT, you know, cruising across Hoth. He's got that piece across him, you know, that came off the figure. So pulled it off, cast it. It could also, you know, you can see it's got all the cool little pieces there. The great thing about, you know, casting your own pieces is reusability. If you're gonna make, you know, a bajillion clone pilots, you're gonna want a bajillion helmets, and you know, finding just one helmet on the internet can be difficult sometimes. So you do that. Sometimes maybe you want backpacks, or say these little pieces right here. You know, like he's got like just a little, you know, doodad that would like stick on the back of an arm, or blah, 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 or be like a pouch. You know, boom, you cast a bunch of them, they're done. The great thing about the resin too is it captures amazing detail, you know. And like I said, if you look at this General Veer's breastplate, you can see there's, you know, detail in the buttons and the striations, and his officer's rank, his general badge. You can see all eight little badges attached there. All kinds of great detail. And once you get set up, casting resin isn't that expensive. You can get a like starter kit for about $100 that comes with silicone that you would cast your part in, or you would, you know, cast your mold, make your mold from, and then a 2-part resin that you mix together, and then cast your part. And after that, you're done. I had a part where I made a tank, and the front of the tank had these 2 cannons, which I got from a B-wing, and I love the way it looks, so I just continued to cast those pieces, because I wasn't going to go out and buy a beat wing or two beat wings every time I needed to make the front of these two treads, you know, put these pieces on. So I just cast that one piece over and over again, and I must have made at least 10 of them. So, you know, after you make your first mold and your first cast, pays for itself. All right, what else? So, some examples of what you can do with just painting, and that's what we're going to get into today, is just a little painting. So here is basically the larger size stuff that we're going to work with. This is a 1998 Action Fleet. This is from the prequel. This is the Ambassador ship. Used to be a, if you saw the movie, which I hope you have, it was red. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon arrived in it, and they landed on the, you know, the Trade Federation ship with it, and they were like, oh, and then it got blown up. So I originally bought this, I think, in an eBay lot. Probably came out to like 50 or 60 cents with the other ships that I got. But of course I didn't like the color. So what do? You paint it. This is just a simple repaint. And you know, it's got a lot of the techniques that we'll cover today. It's got dry brushing and a wash. And you know, it's just awesome. So you get this piece, and here's the detail work. You can kind of see it. You know, I just I toned down the color a little bit, and I added some blue as the highlight color, and fixed up the landing gear, and you know, added detail around. And when you're done, it looks kind of nice, you know. And then what you basically got is one of a kind, right? That's what you got. Another example is this year with The Force Awakens coming out, Matchbox has released not new Action Fleet kind of stuff, but a similar sized, larger scale. Here's the Millennium Falcon pre-Episode 7, and when you buy this as this, you know, as this toy, it comes looking like a toy. It's basically like this color. It's like a tan, a light tan, and it's got a couple of panels that are colored red, and yeah, it's about it. And really, it looks like poop. So in less than an hour, you get this. So you can see, like, added more red. You know, this might be a variant. Maybe this is not the Millennium Falcon, but the Red Osprey or something. You know, so you add a lot of detail. You get to, you know, dirty things up with the wash. You get to highlight a bunch of stuff and make sure that conduits and other things. Here, look at the bottom real fast. You know, you get the panels to pop with the wash, and you can see here. I did not fill these particular ones, and you can see here's the bolt holes where if I wanted to spend more than 60 minutes, I would have went and got some fix it, and I would have filled in these holes and smoothed them out. And just before they were ready to set, I would have probably etched in some of these panel lines, so you wouldn't even have seen or know that these were once holes. Like I said, super easy to do. As someone who wants to get into the hobby of customizing, you know, you just this was like $5, and with like $9 or $12 worth of paint, and like a $10 brush set, or even just 2 brushes, so maybe $3 worth of brushes, you're customizing. So that being the case, what are we gonna do here in this series? So for tonight, we're gonna do a quick paint of Han Solo and carbonite. No disintegrations, right? This is super old, super duper old, and you can tell because Han looks like he's you know, he's been through a lot. Man, he's been through a lot. There isn't a lot of detail in this, right? It looks pretty flat. Even, you know, even with Han reaching out to give you a high five, it's kind of flat. Could use a lot of work. What we're basically going to do is give it what we call a dry brush or a wash, and then finish off with a dry brush to pick up the highlighted details, and the wash picks, you know, really brings the the groove details out, and we'll see what it looks like. So, but as a foreshadow for the future, this is what we're going to do. If we have time, after painting good old Han here, we're going to start with this. This is basically a micro machine Y-wing. So we're going to start, like, best thing about customizing, you can do any scale, any size, doesn't matter. You can buy these on eBay, probably like a lot for $10 to get like 20 of them, who knows. All different kinds, TIE fighters, Millennium Falcons, X-wings, Y-wings, A-wings, B-wings, medical ships, frigates, whatever. And you can do them up. They are made of plastic, so there's a little bit of bend and stuff in them. But they will hold paint well, and because they're small, there's a lot of detail, but there's enough there that with a wash and a dry brush, you can bring a lot of stuff out. Okay? And when you're done, you're like, oh, that's cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this Y-wing as kind of a template, and we're going to paint it kind of how we want. I think I'm going to go with, like, I'm going to keep with the red theme that I added to the Millennium Falcon and take it up. And so we're going to do this red, only because the larger size format Y-wing I have is also already red. And sometimes, you know, not having to repaint everything is a good thing. So we're going to start with this. And then when we're done with that, we're going to take it up a notch. And we're going to go with the Action Fleet version of the Y-wing, which is much larger, you can see. And we're going to try and copy that paint scheme from the smaller Micro Machine to the Action Fleet. And what's cool is Gold Leader here comes with, I don't know if that's Porkins or might be Porkins. Comes with Porkins, who sits in the cockpit, and comes with this red Astro Droid, which, you know, looks kind of small, but we can still add some customizing detail. Because, you know, it doesn't have to be white. White's kind of boring. So, and, you know, at this scale too, you might notice, like, oh, that's a pretty small cockpit. And it's also not or movie accurate because, you know, the Y-wing was a dual ship, so it had a pilot and a gunner. And that's what the, you know, the rear gun's for, just like a B-52 or similar kind of bomber. So this is kind of a small scale, and it uses stickers inside the cockpit, so it might be difficult, but we might do some minor customization and put in like the front piece of the cockpit here with instrument panel, just to see how it works out. Anyways, we'll do that scale, right? So we got these two scales, right? Two scales done. Next, we'll bust out the Hasbro. The Hasbro says hello. Much bigger scale, right? You're like, oh, it's so big, I can't even put the nacelles on because it's so big. And a big, huge frustration with any Star Wars toy collector are these nacelles. They're done in this plastic that warps and bends and just looks like turd. What we're gonna do, I think, straight off the bend is I will probably go to the Lowe's and see if they have any brass piping that's about the size, and we will either replace these with brass, or or if we can't replace them with brass, we will shrink them down and make them half as long and kind of make this like a pygmy A-wing, so to speak. What was cool about this A-wing is it has a lot more detail. We'll get in here and we'll sculpt in and cover up these holes, or you know, the screw holes. We'll be able to add stuff. We will also do some customization on this. And what's cool about that is we will make this unique in our own. We'll take it up a notch. We'll add some bits and pieces and some stuff from some other things. Will also give us the opportunity to, if the cockpit ever opens, you can see this cockpit. You see this power. This comes with the power of the. This is how old this thing is. Power of the Force action figure. These guys were skinny and also articulated as much as the new Force Awakens figures. 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I think it's 6 if you count as stiff head. Stiff head. As you can see, we'll hold them up here. It's kind of small, kind of skinny. I guess, you know, the Alliance couldn't afford to feed people, but that's okay. And you can see too that this scale doesn't have space for the gunner. It'll be better if we look at the side. Around this way. There's no space in there for a gunner, right? And you can see up in the slideshow running that some people have done a little bit of customization. We're gonna look, or customization. We're gonna look at that. We're gonna add in like the little piece that comes down and does that. That'll be cool. I wish we could make this a 2-pilot kind of thing, but we'd have to do some serious dremeling to make that happen. And you know, it's early, and this series is gonna take a long time. There's a good shot in the picture right there of a micro, or that's from me. It's not a micro machine. It's from the new Star Wars Starfighter board game. You know, that guy's customized and painted that A-wing. Looks pretty cool. But you can see like the detail work that just a wash and a dry brush breakout. You know, so we're going to customize this. We're going to look at the cockpit, see if we can customize that some. We'll look at this stuff and see if we can't work it out to make it look like a real, a more movie accurate A-wing. You know, it'll be difficult because it's a toy. It's not a model. It's not a true representation of you know, a special effects model from the movie or anything like that. It's just a toy. So we're going to work on it. See if we can get done. All right. That being the case, let's get rid of these guys. Way they fly away. Fly away.